Hello, I'd like to explain the reasons why juice fasting can be very beneficial to people's health. I'm Dr. Alexander Haskell. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor here in the state of Utah and been in practice for about 30 years. So you've probably heard a few of the benefits of juice fasting. I'd like to try to explain why it is that people feel so much better as far as our vitality and health after or during and after the juice fast. I think the best place to start is with something that Hippocrates said over 2,000 years ago, and that is that there are two primary reasons why people become ill or sick. The first is that our cells lack nutrients. If our cells do not receive the nutrients they require, then of course their function declines, their health declines, and we become susceptible to illness. The second reason is that environmental toxins in our surroundings come into the body through our skin and through our lungs and through the food that we eat. And those toxins, the body tries to do its best with metabolizing and eliminating these toxins, but no person's body is 100% efficient with that, with the excretion of these toxins. So the body is left with residues, and these residues are compartmentalized or stored primarily in our cells, but also they can work their way into our lymphatic fluid, the fluid that surrounds and bathes all of our cells. So then why would juice fasting be so effective with helping to restore our health? And I think one of the primary reasons is that as we flood our body and tissues and cells with these nutrients, especially those nutrients found in organic produce, that our cells begin to function more optimally. So obviously we feel better, but I think there's something that a lot of people don't recognize about juicing, and that is, as our cells begin to function more optimally, they're able then to kick out these toxins which have been stored over decades, over our entire lifetime. And we're exposed to, these days, thousands of chemicals. And most people think that these chemicals, environmental chemicals, are outside the home and outside our home, but they're actually, what I've found in my practice, a lot more within our homes, because our homes are often closed, especially during the winter months and also in the summer if it gets very hot with air conditioning. And these toxins are recycled over and over again within our homes. These toxins are from our furnishings, from the cleaning solutions we used for women, cosmetics, molds, many of these toxins. So the juice cleanse or juice fasting increases our metabolic rate of our cells. They kick the toxins out of our cells. They go back into the body. Hopefully we're doing some cleansing, detoxification at the same time, so that the toxins actually leave the body. So I think I'd like to do a little bit of a sort of a diagram on a whiteboard, so you'll understand a bit more about the procedures of how these cells work, and also some ideas about some purification therapies which you can do during the juice fast. So join me over here on the board. So just to kind of reiterate what I just said, and that is, let's say this represents a cell, whether it's a adrenal cell or thyroid cell or brain cell. And we're talking about juice fasting or cleansing or nutrition here, and that is that the function of the cell declines if it does not receive the nutrients it requires. This is just pretty much common sense. So with juicing, we're flooding the body with these nutrients. We're replenishing nutrient deficiencies within the cell. I'm talking about organic juices at this point. So when toxins enter into these cells, these residues, the primary part of the cell that becomes affected is a part, what's called an organelle known as the mitochondria. And when these toxins get into the mitochondria his primary role is to, there's many roles, the primary role is to make energy, or ATP. So if these toxins get in the mitochondria, the function of the cell goes down. So if it's they're all the cells, but the thyroid cell, the person will experience symptoms of hypothyroidism with weight gain and hair loss and feeling chilly. Their whole body's metabolic rate declines. It's a brain cell. It could be depression, anxiety, hopelessness. If it's the adrenal cell, then there is some degree of chronic fatigue. Of course, there are other reasons for this happening, but we're just focusing on nutrition right now. So in this case, we're flooding the cell with nutrients, which means the cell is going to start to function better because it was nutrient deficient before. And as the mitochondria starts to increase its ATP, or energy production, it's going to start to kick out these residues outside the cell into what's called the lymphatic fluid. Lymphatic fluid is what bathes every cell and tissue in the body. So the issue with cleansing, and if you've been through a juice cleanse before, you know that there's a period of not feeling well. And for some people, it's fairly acute. It can be within the first day or first couple of days, and you feel horrible, and you've got headaches, and you have maybe joint pains and all kinds of issues, because a lot of people's lymphatic fluid has become a swamp. It does not move. So we have to, during the cleanse, we have to start to open up lymphatic drainage and start to move these toxins out of or out through lymphatic system. So one thing that's important, if you can, the lymphatic fluid is not pumped like the fluid in the blood. Like the heart is pumping the blood. There's no pump in lymphatic fluids. And all the fluids, all lymphatics drain upwards, so it's actually against gravity. The only thing that can do this would be the muscles, which are in that area, will actually pump lymphatic fluid up, and it drains into a couple of valves right here that go into the bloodstream. So I want to tell you about a few things that we do at our clinic which would help anyone and support anyone that wants to go through a cleanse. So there's an old-time naturopathic therapy developed by Dr. Carroll and Dr. Dick, who I study with, called constitutional hydrotherapy. Hydrotherapy just means it's a therapy using water. So using, in this case, hot and cold compresses. So the person is lying on a table, and we apply, first of all, a nice hot compress for about 5 minutes from the neck down to the pubic bone. That hot stays on there for 5 minutes, and then is quickly changed to a cold compress. So the heat brings a lot of circulation to the chest, to the abdominal area, to the skin. But all across the skin are what are called dermatomes. So the dermatome for the liver, the dermatome on the skin right above the liver is going to affect the liver itself, which means heat is going to bring more blood to the liver, to the stomach, to the pancreas, to all the abdominal area. So lots of rich blood comes to the surface and to those organs. They dilate, bring blood to the area. The cold, the body's response is to constrict. So it closes down those organs. It pushes that blood away. And what happens with the body is when you put cold on the skin, this is not ice, it's a cold, thin compress, the body's instinct is to warm that cold up. So the body slowly brings back in more blood to warm up that cold towel, slowly brings fresh oxygenated blood back to liver, stomach, pancreas, all those internal organs. And then the person flips over, and we do the same thing on the back, all along the spinal column. And all the spines actually also innervate all the abdominal organs. So basically it's a pumping of bringing blood, pushing it away, bringing fresh blood, pushing it away. And this is going to help to detoxify, to pump these residues, these toxins out of the system. We also use a sine wave machine, a couple of pads, first of all on the back, mid-back, and then over the umbilicus and also the lower behind that belly button. And that sine wave is a gentle way of causing the muscles to contract and relax, and that's helping to pump lymphatic fluid. We're opening up the dam, we're clearing the swamp, bringing fresh like a stream back through the lymphatic system and draining those toxins out of the body. So then the other therapy that comes up next is, so let me just explain one thing. So the two primary organs of metabolism and elimination are the liver and the kidneys. We'll focus on the liver. So here's the liver, and so it's filtering the blood, helping to excrete toxins. From the liver it comes down to the gallbladder, and from the gallbladder it comes around, and all this fluid is emptied into the small intestine, duodenum. Small intestine is quite long, goes through the whole abdominal area, comes out where the appendix is, and now we have the colon. We have the ascending, transverse, and descending colon, which comes to the rectal area. So toxins coming down here are going through this whole network of small intestine, finally coming up to the colon, coming down to the colon, and it's quite easy for these toxins to be reabsorbed from the colon back into the body. So we want to get the toxins out of the body so they're not recycled back in. So we want to get this colon cleared. And you can do, there's coffee enemas at home, which has a lot of benefits. We'll also get the toxins in the stool out more rapidly and get these toxins, prevent them from getting back into the body again. But we use a colon hydrotherapy, which is the use of highly filtered water that's passed through, or I should say, let's say this is a machine, it's regulated as far as temperature, the water comes out and it attaches to a speculum, which is inserted into the rectal area. The water can then be gently, with gentle pressure, come up to the colon and then released. And released goes back through, I should drop this way, this is all sterile, everyone has their own pack, sterile lines, etc. Comes back through the machine, and there's a clear glass illuminated cylinder where the stool passes through, and the hydrotherapist can take a look at what's coming out and give some feedback to the client on the table. It looks like you're not digesting your food completely, or I see some yellow bile here, or there's a lot of mucus, or there went a parasite. So it's something that can be used a little bit diagnostically as well, as far as the person's stool. In this water, we also, for the last, it's usually a 45 minute treatment, in the last 15-20 minutes, we introduce into this water two things. One is pure hospital grade oxygen, and also, to some extent, a bit of ozone. And I won't get into ozone right now, but it's used a lot in medicine, not enough in this country, but all over the world as a great therapy for a lot of different conditions. So if you remember that in the colon we have, we can have a lot of, unfriendly bacteria, parasites, and different things like that, different pathogens. And by this time, this is an area of the body where there's minimal amounts of oxygen. So these bacteria and pathogens are what are called anaerobic. They don't need oxygen to thrive. So when we introduce some oxygen, something as simple as oxygen or ozone, a lot of these pathogens will not survive, and they'll be washed out. And that's another way of helping to detoxify the system. So there's two benefits to getting the colon cleaned up. The other one, which we do the therapy at our center, but you can do this anywhere, and that is one tissue that's the primary site for toxins, for the body compartmentalizing toxins, are fat cells. And it seems pretty logical that the body would put the toxins there rather than in our nerve cell or in other cells of the body. So those fat cells are primarily just under the skin, called the subdermal fat layer. And the easiest and quickest way to get those residues out of the body is actually through the skin, through perspiration. And that's why saunas are so important during the cleanse. There's different, have to be a little careful depending upon your health condition, especially heart issues. You've got to be really, really careful. But in general, people can take a 10-minute sauna, preferably then take a cool shower back in the sauna. Our saunas at our center are steam saunas, the capsule type where you sit inside. We introduce ozone into that sauna as well, because ozone will help to improve the quality of blood. It will be absorbed into the small capillary bed and gets into the system in small amounts, but it helps ozone helps the red blood cells to carry a lot more, to deliver a lot more oxygen and to pick up a lot of carbon dioxide, which is a waste product from our cells. So if we can do that, get rid of the carbon dioxide, deliver more oxygen, there's certainly a greater energetic, feeling more energy in that way. But it also helps us shift the pH, because carbon dioxide is acidic, while lower levels of carbon dioxide would be more alkaline for the system. So that's the draining lymphatic system, getting the swamp cleaned up is one thing. Next is to get those residues out of the colon as quickly as possible so they're not reabsorbed, get the toxins out through the skin. I would like to just mention one thing, and that is juices preferably should be low glycemic. And what that means is that if you were to take a glass of, let's say, carrot juice, or carrots, beets, and apples, and we're talking about the fructose content. Basically that's what's in root vegetables and also in fruit is fructose. What is fruit? How does it actually? So there's one fructose and there's a glucose. That's the way it is in nature. There's no such thing as fructose only in nature. It's always bound to glucose. When you swallow that juice, that bond is cleaved and the body will absorb the glucose and it will absorb the fructose. So what happens with the glucose? You get a rise in your blood sugar from the glucose. And when that glucose goes up, the body will secrete a hormone called insulin, which helps to pull the glucose out of the bloodstream and deliver it to your cells. So as insulin's pulling it out of the blood sugar, that glucose in the blood starts falling down. A person usually will go into a little bit of hypoglycemia. So you'll get this sort of dysregulation, or not dysregulation, you'll get this up and down of your blood sugar, which is kind of a stress on the body. It has to regulate that. So I'll say one thing about fructose, which I think that you'll maybe already know, but fructose, when it's absorbed through the intestinal tract, will pass through the liver. A little bit is changed into glucose, but primarily, if we don't burn it, it becomes triglycerides. Fructose becomes triglycerides. And where do triglycerides go? They're stored in fat cells. And in some ways, I believe that people that have become intoxicated from environmental residues, etc., the incidence is higher if they have higher triglycerides, which these toxins are piggybacking onto and getting into our fat cells. So what is fat? As far as the body is concerned, there's only, I think, two functions. One of which is that fat is a form of potential energy, meaning that the body can call upon the fat stores to convert that fat into glucose for energy. It is one of our survival mechanisms of why the body has fat cells, besides for insulation. So during the cleanse, what we're trying to do in part is we're trying to be in a biochemical state whereby the body is calling upon the stored potential energy of fat to bring that fat out to turn into glucose. So if you're taking higher fructose, higher glycemic fruits and vegetables and having this happening during your day, you're not going to get the benefits that you would if you're keeping your blood sugar much more stable with the lower glycemic fruits and vegetables. Lower glycemic being any vegetable that grows above the ground, like kale, or is on the ground. Well, they're staked, but cucumbers would be another one. Celery grows above the ground. All cilantro, parsley, all those vegetables are going to keep your blood sugar very even. You're going to get a lot more benefits out of the cleanse. I think there was something else that I wanted to say. About the fruits. We have our own kitchen at our center. We prepare fresh organic juices for anybody on the purification. And so the only fruit that we really use would be Granny Smith apples, which have the lowest glycemic index of all the fruits. So you're probably watching this video on our site, but if you're not, it's holistictherapycenters.com. There's a lot more information about the different therapies that we do. Please give us a call. Be happy to speak with you. I've got some great people working at the clinic. We do also intravenous therapies for other nutrient deficiency issues. So the ozone saunas, the constitutional hydrotherapy, the colon hydrotherapy, it's all available. We hope we can help those who want to undergo a juice cleanse. It's not an easy process to go through. I've been through water fasts in my career, and lots of stories about that. Pull me off to the side of the road, quick. But after you go through the purge, it's indescribable, the clarity of thought, the perceptions you can make. It's pretty amazing when you can get rid of toxins. I was raised on a ranch in Northern California, and I remember the spraying, the fog of DDT, and I helped, with, spraying different herbicides and pesticides, and luckily I didn't get that, I wasn't exposed for that long. It was just my early years and through part of my teens, but my teenage years. But I've seen a lot of I stayed in contact through my father with many men that work for us on the cattle ranch and doing spraying and being exposed to these toxins. And every single one of them was either had cancer or diabetes or all kinds of issues. And people are not making the connections. We think we live in a pristine environment, but believe me, these toxins are insidious. They're invisible, they're odorless, and we just keep pulling these toxins in, unfortunately. So please give us a call if you have any questions. We have a lot more educational material on other sites, and hope we can somehow meet one day. All right, thank you.